Hey everybody, welcome to part 2 of our interview with Wilson Torres from Castle and Key. We hope you enjoy it. Thanks for watching. A podcast about bourbon and the ones who drink it. This is Bourbon Matters.
Wilson, so the vodka is damn good, the gin is damn good, the rye whiskey is damn good. This is Bourbon Matters podcast. Yeah. What's going on with the bourbon? What do you think about the bourbon?
Okay. So last year, as we already know and experienced, especially you, Jake, and gentlemen, I don't know if you all got to experience any of it. I'll be the first to say that I wish we would have waited. But I understand the position we were. We were probably the most anticipated brand to come out with their bourbon in God knows how long. Mm-hmm. So I understand what that comes with. And I understood, I should say. To the degree where I felt what we introduced was fine. Mm-hmm. But again, subjective. Well, I will say this, cutting all that other shit out, that this first batch of 2023, I have both, is what supersedes all.
I've got batch 2 here, 2023.
Okay, so how I've described batch 2, Jake, is a deconstructed old-fashioned. I don't know why. That's just how it hits me. Batch 1 is... I use a lot of Spanish terms because obviously before we're going to speak in Spanish and I have to process it in order to say it in English. Spanish came out. That's what I say. So batch 1, 100 proof. Batch 2 coming in at 103. Much larger barrel allotment that we use. We use over 100 barrels per each batch. Blending 4.5-year-old barrels. Maybe some 5. I'm not really sure. I haven't got the true specs yet. But I can tell you that these 2 batches supersede everything we did last year. And again, I'm not trying to diss and or disrespect who I work for and the brand that I represent and what we do. But this is what we should have done from day one. This is exactly how we come into the world. This is exactly how we introduce ourselves to the bourbon, community. Because when it really comes down to it, flavor is everything. Because once you taste something great, everything else is forgotten. You don't even ask the proof. You don't ask the mash bill. You don't ask, do you like it? You just keep it to yourself. You're like, fuck, that's good. And if you happen to use your outside voice, that's when the fucking questions start coming. Yep. You dig what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think... Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think you nailed it by saying the bourbon's fine. It's amazing the brand and the following that you guys have built, where when the bourbon's just fine, it sells out instantly everywhere, and people are still asking for it and still searching for it. And I think that's, it's kind of just exciting for what's to come, because I do think the batches have gotten much better release after release. And now with the 2023 batches, we're kind of first getting a taste on, this is not what I've had before, and I can see where this is going to go in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years.
Yeah. It's almost a built-in vertical, if you will.
Yeah.
Releasing it this way. I mean, who else? I mean, Pinhook obviously does a vertical series. But the vertical series is on their MGP juices, But still, very clever, very brilliant, I feel, on Sean Joseph's side. To give him credit in that regard, because I'm a fan of it. But when you use your own distillate, and we've had to tweak because as of January 1st, we tweaked our rye. Oh, by the way, our rye is now going to be a sour mash rye, not a sweet mash rye.
Oh,
we
nice.
know that.
That's cool.
No.
There you go.
All the rye.
All the rye. Everything that we've had and that's on the shelf is a sweet mash rye. As of January 1st, we have started to sour mash everything.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Boom.
That is like
knew I had something in my pocket.
So
I see what you're doing. We talk about bourbon, you bring us back to the rye.
Yeah. Well, I do want to say that at the last masterclass, you're going to have to correct me on specifically which batches they were, but I think we tried 2022 batch 2 and 2023 batch 1, correct? Yeah. And it was night and day difference. The 2023 is much better. Had much more developed flavor and was definitely closer to what I would expect with the other offerings that you guys put out.
Yeah, I mean it's a 6-month difference.
Yeah.
Slow and low, baby.
And you did talk about bottled in bonds coming at some point, right?
Yeah. Yeah, good memory. Or he re-listened to the recording that he I'm sure.
Well, we know we did that.
I totally forget. It's like, shit. I mean, even when I have my weekly, meetups with my team and my boss and the principals, sometimes I forget that. I mean, I have no filter. I just, I need to work on that, but, but whatever. But, let's talk about that. So, our weeded bourbon, which is, I feel, the best thing we make, because we truly did give it its time, respected its place, and came out with it. We did right by it. We really did right by it. Fully. And I'm not saying that the bourbon isn't phenomenal, and I'm not saying that the rye isn't why. We've clearly stated all that. But the bourbon, I feel, is going to be a bar that is set in the category of wheated bourbon, because there's not a lot of players in that area. The wheated bourbon. There's wheat whiskey, there's wheat single malts, there's all that shit. That's fine. That's cool. I'll let those players play that game. But in the wheated bourbon category, as we know, gentlemen, there are not a lot of players that are good. This is good. This is very good, considering.
I have a feeling we're about to start seeing more.
You will see more.
I think Weller is mostly to thank for that.
Absolutely.
Hate.
No,
thank. Say hate or blame, or thank or blame.
Well, thank, because
I say thank.
We need some more options. We
need
more weeded bourbons out there on the market.
We do.
There's too many people that just think of.
Is Maker's technically a weeded bourbon?
Yes.
Yeah. Makers, the ones that always come to mind are going to be Maker's, Weller, and then Old Elk's done some really great wheat stuff.
And personally, and then Dave Nicholson, to me is a phenomenal weeder. Personally, again, I'm a bottle shelf drinker, but I think it's phenomenal. And Old Elk is phenomenal.
Rebel too.
Rebel's a great player there in that regard. I just feel that is a category. As is rye as we know it, and Jake, you have more experience in this. I'm seeing it from a sales perspective, but from an ownership perspective, rye is on a rise as far as whiskey is concerned. But a wheated bourbon addition to the category, I think will skyrocket past the rise of rye if it's good enough. We need more players in that area. And that is not why we made one. Again, we gained inspiration by what Colonel Taylor left behind and the blessing that we were able to have and gain from it. But our first batch was fucking ridiculous. And it's only 10% wheat.
Oh, wow. That's pretty low.
Yeah. 73% white corn, 10% wheat, and then the balance in malted barley, which is still a higher malted barley for a bourbon. Aged minimum 5 years, coming in at 100 proof off the bat. What does that tell you? Personally, I like how we have been leaving crumbs behind, and we come back to eat them ourselves. Because I personally
got the best one-liners.
I feel, and I'm making this prediction now because it has not been. I mean, it's been hinted, but it hasn't been said yet. because we're still developing. And we're still looking to what better way to come in and really bring in, the family and the fans. Our Bonded and Bond will be a weeder.
Okay.
That is my prediction. And
Prediction.
in fact, that once that happens, this goes away.
Really? So you think you think your prediction is that the weeded will go just straight to the bib?
Yep.
Castle and Key bib, and it'll just be a weeded bib.
Is that a prediction, or is that inside information that you're technically not supposed to share?
That is both. because I know there's more to come using it. It hasn't been clearly shared. Or hints have been given that we're looking to do different things, but I feel the weeded is our chariot in that regard. I think
so what you're saying is I just need to start trolling TTB every day to watch the new labels that come out.
Not immediately, but give it
maybe
come next year sometime, or even as slow as the TTB can be. Start trolling it now, because who's to say?
Yeah.
But I just feel I feel our best bet entry into that market, into the weeded categories, to come in hard with a BIB.
So Wilson, how many rickhouses do you guys have besides the really long one? Just quick.
We have the one other one, that bunker style that was designed by the Japanese architects that's on premise. Warehouse E. It was on that big concrete.
Is that the fallout shelter one?
Yeah.
I remember they showed us the fallout shelter.
Yeah. So we hold and we house a lot of we house some of our distillery, and we hold a lot of old MGP barrels for our contractual obligations in that warehouse. Some of them are in warehouse B as well, but a good majority of those are in warehouse E. We want warehouse B to be kind of ours. But we also have an offsite warehouse that we just purchased. I don't know what's over there just yet, but I know we just got into that place for our surplus. I think we're approaching 35,000 barrels of our own.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Now, what's really cool is, you think about 35,000 barrels, Colonel Taylor was producing 1,000 proof gallons a day back in his time. He had a 36-inch column
still.
Oh, wow.
That's huge.
Yeah, that's big.
2 stills. I'm like, holy shit. This man was just beyond his time.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. I keep reading, and then I keep tapping, I keep sending emails to Murray. I don't know if you guys got to meet Murray and while you guys were on premise, but he's a descendant of Colonel Taylor's.
I met him when I was there in the summer.
Oh my God, dude. So I keep tapping him for some information. He goes, he was just so beyond his time. The true destination distillery is who we are. So when everyone else is spending billions to become shiny and new, and there still is their center point and all that, when we're just come for the acreage, hear the history, and taste your afternoon away,
Yeah,
we definitely didn't talk if it was good or bad to build a brand new multi-billion-dollar distillery last week that someone just said they're going to build. Yeah. Definitely didn't talk about that at all.
No. I tell you what. What is it? Blue Run?
Blue Run, yeah.
Yeah.
My thing is they're trying to do what you guys did a couple hundred years after it was done the first time.
Well,
create a new style of destination.
Yeah, the new style destination. But contractually, they're one of our contracts.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, do you guys have any other questions for Wilson that we want to get out before we wrap up here? Or?
I don't think so. I think we covered everything we wanted to talk about, right? Yeah.
Wilson, before we let you plug, Jake Sigalnik teased this a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
I didn't make the Jim Beam masterclass last night, but there was something we did on episode 39 that came and showed how good we actually are at our jobs, despite how dumb we sound. So, Jake, you guys want to talk about the masterclass real quick last night?
Yeah. Do you want to go ahead, Jake?
Yeah. So it was great. It was all Jim Beam products. So we started off with the double oak versus the black label as the palate cleanser, because those are both around 80 proof. And we worked our way up. And I was kind of keeping an eye out for our Knob Creek barrel pick. That we
did that on episode 39. We did a Knob Creek barrel pick, the three of us.
Yeah, it was like late November, early December. And it just released a few weeks ago. And so I was kind of keeping an eye out for it. And when we got to the last round, which is the high proof stuff, I was like, it's probably one of these, if it's going to be in there at all. So like we're trying it, and it was G and H. And I tried G, and I was like, oh, this like hits every note that I look for in a bourbon that I think is like well aged. Okay. So I was like, this is like perfect. I tried H, and I was like, this is like pretty up there too. They had a little bit of like brighter kind of like citrusy kind of notes that like, along with some like heavy oak. So like they kind of washed each other out in my opinion. But it was also very good. But I just kept going back to G and being like, oh my God, this is like what I look for. It ended up being our Knob Creek pick. And H was Booker's Lumberyard
batch.
Which is like triple the price of our Knob Creek pick, and you can't find it. Yeah.
I mean, the coolest thing to me about that was everyone who was at that tasting knew that I was a big Jim Beam fan.
Yeah,
and I was wearing a Booker's shirt.
Yeah. Okay,
so you had to have known that Booker's was going to be in that tasting, and almost everyone I talked to, before we revealed what they were, said, yeah, G is really good. This has to be a Booker's. I like G better than H. And then we revealed it, and yeah, G was our Knob Creek pick, and H was the Booker's, which that Booker's has very good reviews. Yeah, it's not like I don't really think there's a terrible batch of Booker's, but that one has good reviews. And the votes were, you're not going to believe this.
What were they?
5 votes for the Booker's and 24 for our Knob Creek pick.
Shit.
It was a landslide. Am I allowed to say that, Dan? It was
that one is a true landslide.
It wasn't even close. So the whole room liked the Knob Creek over the Booker's.
What I appreciate to that point, Jake, what I appreciate what you do is that you're willing to put out on the line and really challenge folks, even regardless of price point. Because to your point, Booker's is hard to come by. Every batch is hard. I mean, it's like Jake, one of my best friends, as you know, Jake, Booker's is his shit. He's a Jim Beam kid by way of his grandfather and so on and so forth. And whenever he finds a bottle, he buys it. It doesn't matter which one it is. He buys it. But at the same time, I've had it with him. I've had it with other friends that we have in the industry. It's just like, man, sometimes it just runs too hard for me, Mm. But what I love is that you put it out there anyway, considering how difficult it is. And you not just with the Bookers, but just with everything else, because you really do challenge the very people you serve and you provide for, you challenge. And I love that, man. I love that. You kind of like secretly call their bullshit. And you still money.
I do, man. Well, the thing is we've learned so much. I've learned so much through these blind tastings.
I think it's brilliant.
The marketing and the hype, it gets in your head and it messes with you before you try something. If you open that super special bottle that you've been waiting to open and it's hard to find and it's rare, you've already made up your mind that it's a really, really good pour before you even taste it.
Yeah.
And so tasting blind just throws all of that stuff out the window, and it's just purely what is the better bourbon?
I love
what
it.
is the better whiskey?
Yeah, and I like to hear your strategy on that, because I know you probably put our pick up against that. probably because there's at similar proof points, but also because I'm sure you were hoping that we would at least get close, in the matchup.
Yeah.
But like,
I mean,
if you would have told me before, like ahead of time, that like our pick is going up against Booker's, I would have been like, oh, I would have been good with like a 2-to-1 ratio. Like,
No, I agree. Like, at least maybe like a third of the room would have liked the Knob Creek better, and then would have been like, all right, well, I'm going to buy this because it's better than the bottle that's super hard to find and has fancy packaging and whatnot. But that's the beauty of blind tastings, and I'm a big Booker's fan. Like, I'd like to talk to Jake Huckey about all this.
You should
set him up with some good Knob Creek single barrels because
he's like you, he's a Jim Beam guy.
Yeah, I love that nutty, peanut, dusty vibe that comes with some of these older Jim Beam products.
Yeah.
And I've always been a Knob Creek single barrel fan, and I get asked all the time what my favorite bourbon is, and my answer is always Knob Creek or Booker's because they're consistently good but consistently different. They're well aged, and I like that deep oak, hard caramel flavor that comes with them. But yeah, I think if you know how to pick a good barrel, which pat ourselves on the back, I think we did with this one. Some of those, 24 votes to 5. Did Knob Creek beat out the Bookers.
I think that's a triumph. That's something that I don't. Fuck! Now you've set the bar. Like, your next pick, will it be that?
The funny thing is when we did that pick is we knew that one of the 3 samples they sent us was from the Booker's warehouse, and we didn't pick that one. We didn't know until afterwards, but we didn't pick the sample from the Booker's warehouse. And then on top of that, this pick went and kicked another one from the Booker's warehouse.
So traditionally the warehouse one is the Booker's warehouse, and our last Knob Creek pick was from warehouse one. And it sold out very quick just because it was from that Booker's warehouse. And if we would have went with the warehouse one pick for this round, it probably would have sold out before this tasting even happened. But we go for the best barrel. We don't want stats. We want the best tasting barrel. And I think that proved last night.
But you said some things. You referred to some key things in regards to your pick and the location of it. I was like, let me ask you this, something from a professional side of things for what I do for a living and what it is that I do and how it is that I turn it around to service you, Jake, and of course, Dan and Jake as well, from a consumer standpoint. I'm so enveloped by what we do and how we do it and sharing that with people that when people, like right now we're talking about your Knob Creek pick and how well it did last night or within the last, your last blind tasting. I don't know enough about other brands to be like, hey, yeah, but we do this, or, oh, that's, what I'm saying? Is that bad or is that good that I don't know? And I can give 2 fucks about Buffalo Trace. I really don't. I mean, I drink it because it's good. It's just good.
Try some Green River.
Yeah.
I had some Green River.
Beat Buffalo Trace in our blind tasting.
Yes. So I remember.
I think that's good and bad. I think you need to know what else is out there. But at the same time, like,
I'm talking about comparison. Like, I'm familiar with what's coming out and everything, but like when people's like, well, when they come up to me, it's like, hey man, how would you do against a Green River? Wow, well, there's so much involved.
Well, it means you just need to do some market research.
You do, yeah. You need to. I think you need to. It wouldn't hurt to taste them, and I know you keep up with what's coming out and whatnot. And I know you're knowledgeable with the industry, but yeah, you also like drinkers nowadays. They're not only just about the taste, and these blind tastings do a great job on proving taste, but they're also in it for the history and what comes behind the brand with the product, So I think that definitely plays a big role into what we're buying and why we're buying. But I there's nothing that will ever come above a blind tasting. In my opinion.
No,
Yeah.
I agree with you. That's why I think it's just so brilliant. And anytime I'm able to keep it, people was like bottle shares. I love it. I go take a naked bottle of this and I put it on the table. I'm like, let's see how well it rides. I don't wear anything. I mean, I wear clothes, but I'm not anything. But it's just like, but I just find myself sometimes because I'm so involved and I'm everywhere. And here and there that I know that I'm missing out on something. So like even this, like just your Knob Creek pick, and then how well it fared, against the Bookers of all things. And then Green River, I was able to, because over the week, over this past couple of days, I was able to try it. Within the last week, I was able to try some of it at a whiskey show. So it was just like, man, it was cool. But we don't really get that opportunity to really step away from what we represent and do to dive into something else to better learn it or to even understand it. Which is why sometimes we're at a disadvantage in that regard. Which is why I was like, man, I hope I just. Because I give credit where credit's due. I hope, I hope at least I do. But, sometimes it's hard. Sometimes I bank on you guys and like, well, from what I understand and have heard, this. But I can't say anything for me because I haven't experienced it. So.
Yeah, and I mean, one thing that I've learned from doing all these random blind tastings where there's no theme or no distillery given, is that taste can also be very subjective to what you like. A lot of times, in my opinion, the better whiskey may not win for certain people, because you'll get comments like, "This one was spicier, and I like spice," or "It was too spicy for me, and I don't like spicy things." What was really cool about the Jim Beam blind was each round tasted very similar. And people really had to dissect each pour. Like upon first taste, you could easily be convinced that it was the same whiskey in the glass. And you really had to take your time to nose and check out the viscosity and taste and kind of pick out little differences here and there, whether it was on the finish, on the mid palate, one was a little spicier, So yeah, I think that was really cool to really have everyone like work their brains while tasting whiskey, which sounds obscure to people who don't, drink, who aren't into this like we are, but that's kind of why we're into it, because there's an art to distilling, tasting, and everything that goes into making spirits.
There is, but I can't thank you enough, Jake. We've known each other for over 4 years now, and you've been very good to me. You've been very good to the brands, not because of our relationship, but what was able to be provided to you and extended to you in bottle form.
Our relationship has a lot to do with it, but obviously you're working with a very cool distillery and you're making very quality products, and the two and two go hand in hand. So thank you.
Plus, you're a hell of a follow on Instagram. Your cocktail pictures with music and everything are awesome.
We're all about the five senses, baby. I mean, that's something that I take pride in. You may not be able to taste this everywhere, but you can at least see and hopefully do what we're doing. It's been a lot of fun. A lot more work for sure. Because I'm used to just covering Chicago and whatnot, but now I'm covering 5, 6 in Chicago. Yeah,
Gold Eagle and Libertyville.
Gold Eagle and Libertyville.
No, I just love that Wilson says.
It's been a lot of fun. I was in New York for the last 3 days, and man, dude, what a difference! What a difference, man. The drink culture there has not really revived yet. They're still under some COVID mandates, so the city hasn't really revived yet in that regard. So the portfolio shows that I did and store visits and the road show they put me on was literally 12 to 15 hours a day. It was nonstop. I think I ate once, drank at least a 6-pack of Miller, highlights where I could find it. And that was it. But I always, people was like, "Oh, where are you coming from?" I tell them, and they're like, "Oh, you guys are good. You guys are doing all right. You guys reviving? I'm like, yeah, shit, man. I'll tell you what, the Midwest drinking culture will never die.
Yeah.
Proved that through the pandemic.
Not with Wisconsin right north of us. We'll never.
Yeah.
They'll carry us no matter what happens.
I tell you what, man, and covering that state too, it's just ridiculous. But I really do appreciate and I'm very grateful for individuals such as yourself that's given me this opportunity to at least talk on a little bit more, maybe too much. And I love what we do. I love what I do. I love that I have this relationship with Jake. I garnered this new one with Jake, and then Dan, meeting you tonight, man. I hope you get better. Seriously, it really does suck to be sick, man. It really does. It just fucks you up, and you get behind on shit. But if there's anything that I can do for you guys want to meet up again, you want to taste through some things, some special shit, let me know. I'll be more than happy to bring it over to Gold Eagle. We can sit and we can talk about it. We can share. It's just. We're in a special time right now when it comes to bourbon. People talk about a bubble. I think they just say that because they need to garner some conversation. But I tell you,
the bubble is just getting started.
Yeah, when the big six is spending that much money, I don't see anything going anywhere anytime soon. Because why would they spend that much money? They have much more resources to look deep into that.
Yeah,
if anything, the generational drinker is dying. With all due respect to those families, but bourbon keeps flowing, man. Booze keeps flowing, beers keeps getting drank, and sometimes you need a little something to go with it. So thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate you all.
Yeah, no, I think this relationship is great. We feel like we're just getting started at Gold Eagle. This podcast is just getting started, and Castle and Key is just getting started. So,
well said. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
On that note, let's wrap this up. And plug some shit.
Yeah. Plug.
Wilson, go ahead and plug your socials in Castle and Key.
Yeah, well, hey, this is Wilson Torres with Castle and Key Distillery out of Frankfort, Kentucky. If you want to have some cool new shit out of something old, check us out over at Gold Eagle in Libertyville, Illinois. If not, look us up online at www.castleandkey.com. Hook me up on your Instagrams. I'm at 312MADE. That's 312 Made. Chicago born and bred. Cheers.
Yeah, definitely worth a visit if you're going to go to Kentucky.
Yeah,
place is beautiful. I did not get to go last time because Dan went without us. So I'm really upset about that.
Some of you guys had to work.
Yeah, I had to work.
I didn't. So Jacob, so Gold Eagle. I'm guessing the Knob Creek Barrel Pick's gone now, or is there still some left?
I think there's like 15 bottles left.
Okay,
so by the time this episode airs, it's probably going to be gone. But keep an eye out for the Castle and Key pick that's coming soon that Wilson apparently already picked. We just got their new seasonal gin in, which is really good. And any Castle and Key product that's available, we bring in. I think we have 4 or 5 different vintages of the rye right now because we do try to backstock cases. Gives the consumer a unique opportunity to come in and choose from the different batches that are out there. But make sure you check us out on Instagram at Gold Eagle Wine, Facebook at Gold Eagle Spirits, and then goldeaglewine.com. You can see our whole inventory, shop online for pickup and delivery, and soon shipping.
Oh, and on that note, honestly, this is something that's worth to piggyback off of Jake's plug. Castle and Key, everything we make, Jake is the only retailer in all of the Midwest to carry it all.
Ooh,
all right. The whole line.
Retailer
in the Midwest
to carry everything that we make in the Midwest. So that shipping aspect, key.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And this is his next barrel. I'm just saying, right?
Yeah. Jake, what about our podcast? Where can people find, listen, watch, whatever they want to do?
Yes, you can watch us on YouTube. You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple, Stitcher, pretty much anywhere you listen to podcasts. You can find us at bourbonmatterspodcast.com. Email us at bourbonmatters@gmail.com if you have anything to say.
All right. Well, Wilson, thanks for joining us tonight. This was awesome. It was very a great learning experience too. So we appreciate your time.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks for giving me that 30-minute window. I was taking my wife out for a nice dinner. I haven't seen her in 2 days, so I appreciate you guys being so flexible. And thank you very much, Jake. Especially thank you, man. Thank you for carrying us. Thank you for your support personally and professionally. Jake R., thank you for sitting in and recording me for that hour and a half or so and dealing with that. Dan, pleasure to meet you. I don't know. Is that a Blackhawks hat on you?
Yeah. Yes, it is.
All right. I couldn't tell.
They're finally starting to get the tanking system right. Okay. They got that 6-game losing streak going on. We're finally figuring out how to tank.
Well, gentlemen, thank you so much again. I mean, honestly, it means a lot. Just if it's just 3 sets of ears, 10, 12, 15, 20, or even more, those are 10, 12, 15, 20 or more that will, maybe give us a sip.
Awesome.
Great.
Cheers.
Thanks so much, Wilson. Cheers.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Wilson.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers.